Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show. This is TFT, and today we're talking about wiping your butt and keeping yourself hygienic, and also talking a little bit about the ongoing thing that is the conspiracy itself. The pandemic has become something more, I would think. But we're going to have that conversation, and we certainly appreciate you guys being in here. Definitely check out our links we have down below, and we'd really appreciate it if you guys would share this out with your family and friends so we can have more eyes over here. We are live streamers after all. I do have to apologize there in the chat. Nick C came in and he put in just a bunch of toilet paper, which will become the future symbol of this whole situation, I'm sure. But just understand this. YouTube is so freaking broken in their head that when you put up toilet paper, as Curious 2A just did, I have to show it, or one of my moderators do, because they're blocking it. The image of a toilet paper is now bad words, bad imagery. What do they call that back in those old German times back in the 40s? What did they call that? What was that?
Verboten.
Huh? What was that?
Verboten.
You gotta
Verboten.
say it like a German. You gotta say it like a German would. Verboten.
There
Real
it is.
fun.
Nine.
Verboten.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty outrageous. You can't even show a picture of a piece of toilet paper because that is just too much. Okay. Well, you guys all know what we're dealing with today, and that's what we're getting into. We are going to talk a little bit about hygiene. We're going to be continuing the prepping conversation because there is more to say about it. But we're also going to be talking about what's going on here with this current situation because I think we find ourselves in a very unique situation, and maybe there's a conversation to be had here. But yeah, that's right, Curious. I have to, me or I guess John probably did it. One of our moderators has to actually allow you to be able to see that because it's automatically blocked. Yep, toilet
John
paper.
probably did it. Yeah, John, definitely was John. It wasn't the guy sitting right next to you. Yeah.
Or Thundero, yeah, it was somebody. Because I only saw one blue mod that had spoken is all. But anyway, thank you, Thundero. Uh,
And that would be a new development if they've made toilet paper one of the things.
I am constantly surprised by what shows up in that verboten section. It's just the craziest stuff. We had just what was it last week, Thundero? Just the symbol for toilets.
Yes.
The man woman symbol, right?
Yes.
That's on the list too.
And I'm just gonna, because I never do. Today, I think I will. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say they only did that recently because people were going into chats, like live chats, and just spamming the crap out of it. So they put it on the blacklist. So if people want to shut it off, they can just shut it off.
I can
That's the
shut it
way I can.
off anytime I want. What are you talking about?
I know you can, but maybe it's just on the auto moderator because people are doing it so much. Other than that, I have absolutely no idea why toilet paper of all things would be on there. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it makes sense to me. Because there's little people that they hire over at YouTube, even though they've been kind of closed down for a little bit here, but they hire these little people that sit there and dream all day about exactly what offends them about every other person on the planet, which is usually white men. But they sit and they think about it, and they think about it all day, and then they say, "Oh, that one too. Oh, that one too," and they type furiously all day in their little blue hair and their incredible lack of physical what's the word, Thundero?
Prowess?
Yeah, tauntness. That's the
Oh,
word.
well.
They're potents.
Yes, that word. But anyway, that's kind of what we're talking about today. So we're going to get into that. But of course, I want to introduce my guest properly. We have a man who is making. That's a mask he's making for himself, by the way, as you see there in the screen, that he's going to walk around stores wearing because there are many places now in the states that you got to wear a mask if you want to go anywhere. Which is we'll talk about how dumb that is in a minute. But that's what he's doing. So he is exactly what Frank Miller was warning us all about in The Dark Knight. That's what he is.
Yes, I'm
It's Model 3.
I'm doing this out of spite because I figure if I have to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a really gross mask, and you're going to have to look at it.
That is very spiteful. That is a lot of work just for spite.
Yes, I've seen more done in that effort. As a matter of fact, one really interesting thing to do in Spite would be, making toilet paper pop up on the mods chat. You know, and of course, you guys over already heard him speaking. Uh-oh. Gotta warm up a little bit as he flies in above the planet, looking down upon the endemic that has caused all manner of suffering. He says, "What should I do? Should I simply be a beacon of hope, or should I throttle dumbasses?" It's Thundero.
I like how it always ends in some form of throttling or violence. That's what I
Well,
like about it.
yeah,
Favorite
well,
part.
I'm glad you like it. But how you doing, dude?
I am spectacular. I had some awesome like steak tips and noodles tonight for
Ooh,
dinner. That's always a good time. My belly's nice and full. You can't complain. What's there to complain about when your belly's full? You got
that's
nothing.
that's a fair point, man. I hear a lot of people bitching when they have full bellies. I don't get it, man.
I don't either.
Yeah.
It could be worse. You could not.
Dude, I've had time moments in my life where I didn't have a full belly. How about you, model?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Thunder was a bit young, I think. But you ever miss a
Oh yeah,
meal?
I was homeless for 2 months. I've missed plenty of meals.
All right.
I've even missed meals so my dog could eat.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
That's a good thing. Yeah.
So I do 1 day a week where I fast
Oh,
every
I
week.
do that once a year. Yeah. No, fasting is yeah.
Intermittent fasting is actually very healthy.
It is.
Usually on
It's one of
Monday
those
I
things
fast.
that the Jubises do that you should pay attention to. The Jubises, they're smart, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
don't discount them.
Well, Christians are supposed to do it too, but very few of them practice it.
Yeah, no,
In my
that's true. I mean, I come from a Northern Baptist upbringing, and I never heard the word until I got older. So, but it is true. You're supposed to. It's actually good for you. I would suggest for everybody, take one time a year at least. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't do it once a week, but that's good on you. But take a time once a year and just take 3 days and don't eat, man. Just drink yourself some water, but don't eat anything. Give it a try. You'll find it's interesting. It's interesting.
mm,
But anyway, we're here to talk about not religious stuff, or we're here to talk about health stuff, and fasting could be part of that conversation. So we will be getting into that. But first things first, of course. Uh, excuse me. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us here today. We do appreciate it, guys. And keep in mind that if any of you want to be on any of these shows that we do, just hit me up on the Twitter. We'd love to have you. I mean, it really is open and free to all. I'm not joking. And also, we appreciate you guys sharing it out and stuff like that. Do keep in mind that this is going to be a normal week for us, we hope. But today, we definitely want to get into, I guess in general, this is part three of prepping. But each one of them have been a very different look at it. So today, I want to get into that. But before we do jump in, so hardly, strongly into hygiene and stuff like that, which I think is a good conversation. I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world at large. Now, obviously, we have to worry about what we say here because if we say the wrong thing, there has been someone going around our community. Which is the greater indie revival comic book community. It's got the more moderates in there. You got the Comicsgate people in there. You get just comic book lovers. You got all kind of different people are under this umbrella, and we can all happily get along, right? But there is someone who's coming after this community. There have been many, many videos that have been flagged, false flagged, right? And if any of you know anything about YouTube, as far as having, doing your own YouTube show, you know right well that they make it kind of impossible for you to play the game, right? When you get a flag, you have an option. You can appeal it, but if you do, they'll shut you down for 30 days while they investigate, and they'll take their sweet ass time about it. Trust me. Now, if you're a moneymaker, they'll get on it within hours, right? But for the rest of us, that's not going to happen. And of course, what that means is the majority of us, we don't appeal. because it's not going to work out for us, right? In the end, but somebody is flagging because we've had a video or two that's been flagged here, and I know it's flagging too. It's not the algorithm that's catching on something, is because it said very clearly what had happened. We were um, manually flagged. So someone actually went and used the system. And right now, because YouTube has most of its workers are actually not in the office because they've kind of shut down for the ongoing problem. Everything is automation, and they turned it all on high. That's what they did, and then they walked out the door. And people have found that they can take advantage of that because there's no one there to actually talk to, right? To get any help,
So
even if you wanted to.
is this TFT or is this your comics show that is getting the flags?
Interestingly enough, it's the comic one, not TFT. Well, you would think the one that would definitely get hammered, right? Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
I think we can kind of guess who's up to that with the flagging.
we probably can. But I mean, think about it. It's all across the board, though. You even had like RT Bear got flagged, and he's like he's a Comicsgate guy. We've had guys that have nothing to do with Comicsgate getting flagged. We have all us people that are in the. I mean, we're all Comicsgate. Ultimately, we are. We all came in that way, but we all kind of stand at different positions around it, I would say. But everyone's getting hit, so it's not it's not necessarily one thing or another. I don't know if it's just someone that's found a happy new toy to play with, or I don't know how insidious it is what I mean. It could be, but I'm just warning everyone. Like, keep that in mind. It is something that's been going on here for a couple of weeks, so it is what it is. You got anything to say on that, Thunder?
Nothing that wouldn't get us banned.
Right? Yeah, it's kind of asinine, man. But and it is what it is. But like I said, it isn't one. If it were only a certain group, it would
I do have
make.
one thing, one real simple thing. If it's somebody out there being malicious and thinking they're going to hurt us by flagging, we don't care.
Yeah, we
Flag
don't
it away.
care at
Take it
all,
away.
dude.
We do not care. We do
They're
this completely
Ollie.
for fun. It
Yeah,
has nothing to do with making money or anything like that. So if that's how you get your kicks, you have fun.
yeah,
You're not
yeah.
going to do. You're not going to achieve anything but wasting your time.
I agree.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's Denali and he's just really mad at you?
No, I don't actually, but because it is very widespread. And even if it was an alley thing, I have no clue what's going on there. And maybe true, maybe he's just busy. I don't think so though. But yeah, I don't know what it is, and I think that is a fair point, Thundero. A lot of people get real serious about stuff, and
Real
it's like
serious.
real serious, and it's like they
Real
have not,
serial.
they haven't listened to a word I've said because. I mean, could I be more sarcastic? Do I need to dial it up, Thundero? Do I need to?
No, I don't even know if that's possible.
I don't
I don't
think
even know if that's attainable.
it's true, dude. I mean, come on now. But anyway, just a little heads up on that. I'm sure all you guys know that anyway. I mean, half the stuff I talk about, you guys are ahead of me anyway. Seeing as the amount of time I spend on social media, you guys see, because I don't touch the thing the rest of the day. I don't even own a phone. You guys know that, right?
I wish I couldn't own a phone, but my wife literally cried because I didn't want to get one.
Well, dude, I have a
What
wife
does it
and I have a
happen to you?
secretary. What the hell do I need a phone for?
Good point.
You know?
I need to get me one of these secretaries.
No, secretaries
Sounds like
are handy. Make sure you get a cute one that's got a nice butt, but not so
Yeah.
nice that your wife notices, though.
I
That would
bet
be.
you Chester's wife's not in the room right now.
No, she's not. No, of course not. But I mean, that is part of the tactics of hiring. It's on. It needs to be on the resume. I do say. But you got to stare at things all day. Well, what the hell you want to stare at? You want to stand at? You want grandma? Huh? You want a pink hair in the room? No, you want to. It's not what you want. You want something that's you know nice to look at. So therefore, I don't hire men for that job. Oh well, I'm a what do they call that? Am I a unequal opportunity employer? Is that what I am? Okay. But anyway, uh, but no, I don't even have a phone. I don't need it. I don't use it. I'm in the world doing my thing. So I don't really need to deal with that so much. Now I do have a tablet, so I mean I can make interaction with the world when I want to. But I don't have one of those damn phones that's in my pocket that I'm looking at every 10 seconds. What the hell? But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this situation. So let me go ahead and bring this up real quick. Oh, stop it. I don't want to buy your stuff. Advertisements. All right. So let me bring this up right here. And well, I guess maybe I should share first. Let me do that first. I always kind of forget that. All right. Now, you guys, just a kind of quick question. Are you guys working yourselves?
No.
Nope. I am completely shut down. I've got projects that have all been delayed, postponed. I can't have classes. I've got people weekly that are canceling enrollment,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to get really pissed about this pandemic.
Oh no, I'm in the same situation you are. I am. I've been working all along here. I did lose a little bit of people who were afraid and stayed home, and that's cool. But in general, I was working no problem, right? And but here last week, the Japanese government went and panicked itself completely, and they shut us down. They shut Japan down, right down, right, for 2 weeks. Now, I guess the idea is we're going to get through the Golden Week, which Golden Week is in May, and it's we don't have a lot of holidays. Japanese kind of workaholics, right? But it's one of the big holidays in the year, and once we get past that, we're going to get back to normal. So what Japan is doing is saying, all right, we're going to shut ourselves down for 2 weeks. We ain't doing nothing. We ain't going nowhere. And then we're going to get back to normal. So I mean, all right, at least there's a sun at the end of the over the side of, over the top of the hill, right? But I'm actually shut down for 2 weeks. Actually shut down, which is the first time that I've been required to do so in this whole situation. And understand that Japan's been on this since January, right? I mean, it was interesting in the beginning. A lot of people were talking about Japan's overreacting or underreacting or whatever here or there, and they just had a lot to say about Japan. You haven't heard anyone say anything about Japan in months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was all funny. But so what about you, Thundero?
I am, yeah, furloughed, laid off, whatever it's called when you're gonna go back as soon as they let you.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I'm still working. I'm just not going anywhere. I'm kind of work. I already do some of my work from home anyway.
Well, that's handy.
Now, last week, Governor Cuomo said that this will very likely, they will not open up New York City until July or August. Now, this is nonsense.
Well,
And I've had this discussion with a couple of people, and I've said exactly what's on my mind. Do you know what's on my mind, Chester?
can you say it? Oh, go ahead. Who cares? Go ahead.
There are worse things than a couple of 100,000 people dying.
Oh God, yeah, dude. There
And
certainly
that
are.
is
Yeah.
what's going to happen if they keep doing this. There are much
Yeah.
worse things than 1 million people dying.
Yeah, no, that's
And
the sad thing about the situation, dude. Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're in a way you are kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, but you have to choose the proper route. And a lot of places are in America. But New York, California, places like that, Michigan, it turns out, uh, are uh, are led by just communists. What are you gonna do, right?
but the rest of the country is going to have to bail these states out, like always.
As usual, yeah, yeah. Let me see what the chat has to say about their working. So all of us are down, and we're in very different areas of the world too. Let's see. Nick says, "Hey Chester, what is this about Gates, Fauci, and the vaccines?" Well, Fauci is a doctor that's going to do doctor stuff. He doesn't. I don't think you should be listening to every single word he says because he's a doctor. I don't know what you mean by this, but just off the top of my head, Bill Gates is an absolute tool. Where have you been? And vaccines, well, there's a lot of talk on that. We'll see if we can get into that if we have knowledge to give you on that.
Now, I know right now this Fauci guy is he's kind of the darling of the right. I do not share that opinion of Fauci. I think Fauci is a little scumbag.
Well, and we do get some pushback from Trump on him, and that's good. I say I don't have trouble with a doctor being all about the doctor. Him wanting to shut it down forever type of thinking. It's just he's just being a doctor. I have no trouble with that. I just you want to make sure you're balanced with other opinions around him. It's because it's not all about his opinion. It's a joint thing, and Trump's got it, man. He's got that under control. That's not a problem. So I don't blame Fauci for being a doctor. I don't blame him for that. I get your point though. Gates is unforgivable. So whatever. Let's see what Roger says. Nick, I heard that Gates wants you to get the vaccine for the sickness, and the vaccine has a microchip that Big Brother can monitor you where you are in the world with 5G. Well, that's the proper place for that comment, Roger. You found it here on TFT, sir. Sweet. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
conspiracy
they're gonna
theory.
integrate this stuff with the real ID, with the national ID,
Well, they might,
the
yeah.
smart ID card. Yeah, they're absolutely going to.
Well, over here in China, they have their social credit card, right? Credit numbers, credit score. And it's how good a communist are you? I mean, do and if you aren't a good enough communist and you don't say the right things, you can't go and use credit card. You can't get train tickets. I mean, they shut you down. They shut you out of life, right? And I've been noticing that a lot of these, so-called liberals in the West have been just touting it. It's like, oh, it's so wonderful. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. All right, let's see here. John Diller says, I love how Thundero's intros are so cool, and the MSN himself, and the man himself is cripplingly lame. Ooh, damn, shots fired, John. You
All right,
got to.
John. At least I'm not Mexican. It's okay, bud.
That's it.
Oh,
That's low hanging fruit,
shots
though.
fired back.
That's low hanging fruit. Come on now. Um,
It's not my fault he's Mexican.
That's no, and I love Mexicans personally,
I like
especially
Mexican women. They're pretty awesome.
especially their women. Yeah, I wouldn't marry one though. God damn
No.
it, I mean, that would be you're putting yourself in a world of hurt, John. But they're fun to play with though. That's for sure. Vaccines are being used on third world countries. There is a lot of talk about population control too. Yet, no, they absolutely are, and the Africans are just upset. But then again, when aren't they upset? If you want to have some interesting viewing, I guess let's be nice. Go watch anything that's going on in Africa at any time. You can find news coming out of Africa, by the way. But right now, there's riots in the streets. They're killing each other, literally killing each other over cookies from UNICEF. So,
Dirt cookies, as a matter of fact.
uh-huh, yeah. So freaking Africa, dude. I mean,
I've always wanted to have $1 billion bill, haven't you, Chester?
well, you can get them these days. Yes, you can. We all know it is Chester's wife. She is tired of him hanging out online with his weirdo friends. That's true. It probably is. Uh, if she could operate the computer, that would probably be step one. But skip breakfast, Rodwell. That's strike two. Goodness, it sounds like Thundera cares a lot. What a simp! Oh my goodness, John is on you today. There's going to be some love spat here today, I think. Joshua Hughes says, wipe your butt on TFT. So you ran out of conspiracies to talk about, huh? No, dude, that's a great title. Come on. I should get props. Thundera,
No,
I mean,
I really don't want you to get props for wiping your butt, but I don't. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you reenact it. I don't want anything to do with that visual. Thank you.
okay. All right, fine. All right. All right, fine. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into my little primer I have today, and we'll get into our conversation. Actually, this will be a little different. I think today's primer is going to be more about. We'll take it piece by piece. How about that, guys? All right, let's not start with what I want to talk about mainly today. Oh goodness gracious, did we just have a drop? No, we didn't. Okay, good. Let's talk about what's going on in the world first. So here we go. All right, let me just make sure we're still operating. Okay, everything's still on. All right, all right, all right. Okay, good. All right, now, obviously, this is what's going on. We know all about this, and it still kills me that you can't use the word here on the YouTubes because they will shut down your stream, or they'll just block you, or demonetize you. Now, of course, I'm not monetized. Never was, never gonna be, because I don't want to play that game, right? But it just kills me that you can't even use the word. You go when you check on the internet, go check it out on the YouTube. You'll notice that they'll have things like MSNBC and all these approved sites will have no notes or anything about their conversations. But you'll have, even when the president himself is getting, and not only our president, other presidents as well, are up talking about the current situation. What does YouTube do? They make sure they put that WHO information right underneath there. Did you guys notice that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what's that about? Huh?
Well, there's a few topics they do that on. They do that on 9/11. They
They
do that
do.
on a certain place that has sand and it has a shape to it. That one will get you shut down real quick. They do it on the Holocaust. They do it on Apollo, and now
Yeah.
they've added this
Oh, the
this
flat
topic to
Earth.
it.
They don't like that at all, dude. They're very anti-flat Earth. They'll jump on you butt hard, dude. We've never
Yep.
had as much flack as we had when we did those 2 flat Earth shows. My goodness. Right, you remember that, Thundero?
Yes and no. I don't think I was on one of them.
Oh, yeah, but ooh, man, they tagged us immediately. I mean, it was, there's certain topics they don't like you talking about. But for me, this is an ongoing thing around the world. What right do you have to stick your damn nose in there? I mean, that's what it comes right
Hey, I'm
down
with
to,
you. I'm with you.
right? But anyway, we'll just call it Pandemic. And by the way, this picture is from one of the best board games ever made. If you've never played Pandemic, go get it when you have a chance. Great for when you're in the lockdown at home. I don't know if Amazon's still delivering; they probably aren't. But this is a great board game. But I just thought it was a good picture. But nevertheless, this of course is going on, and we know that, and there's not much details we can give that you don't know, I would imagine. Although, have a comment in the chat, and maybe there's something I do know about it that you don't, or one of these guys. I mean, I am in a little bit better position with this current situation simply because I'm in Asia, right? And I have
Uh-huh.
access to more information that you have to go dig for, right? But anyway, you have this. Of course, we also have this right here. Now, now this is interesting. I want to take a minute and talk about the WHO if you guys don't mind. Now, we
Mm.
all know that this guy right here is from Ethiopia. He's a terrorist. He was part of the terrorist government that had control over there. He's been propped up by China. We know this. None of this is hidden. This isn't conspiracy theory at all, right? And he was put in charge of the WHO. And let me explain how this happened, and why we have this guy in here, and why the WHO has become what it is. Way back in what was it, 2004, 2006? When was SARS? When did that happen?
The middle, 2004,
It was
6, or
back.
2006, 7 in there,
Yeah, back in that time. Well,
right
at
in the
that
middle.
at that time though, the WHO dug into China hard because China lied. Shocking, right?
No, China
Yes, they did. And
couldn't be.
the WHO dug into him hard, saying this is unacceptable. You can't do this. You have to give us information upfront, etc. Yada yada yada. And of
Mhm.
course, they're right to say that. But China didn't like that at all. They don't care for that because, I mean, just keep in mind that you can't even see Winnie the Pooh or Animal Crossing in China, amongst many other things, because the regime has such soft skin, such thin skin, right?
Because
And
China is asshole.
yeah, because China is asshole. Yeah, exactly. And I understand when I talk about China, I am talking about the CCP. I mean, get that, right?
Not the
Uh,
Chinese people.
no, the Chinese people are
We
suffering.
all get
But to be fair, is it not their responsibility to stand up and throw off their own shackles? I mean, really,
You know,
Yes.
there's
we
a
aren't doing
billion
such
of
a
them.
great job of that ourselves here either, Chester.
Well, but we have though. On several occasions, especially Americans, we've stood up and throw our
Mhm.
shackles off. I mean, how many times have we bailed out damn France? Because there's another one that'll sit under oppression for quite a while. What do you think? Why we can't stand the French? But anyway, let's not get into the old wounds. But this guy is complete, tool, I guess we can use the word. But what happened was, after that happened in the mid, aughts, um, China spent a lot of money to get control of the WHO, and they did. And that's the end of it. There it is. They were offended. They didn't want a worldwide organization saying bad things about them, so they spent a lot of money and time, and they wormed their way in there and get control of it. So it's
Yep.
been going on since then. So what, 13 years or something like that, and they have complete control of it, because it's even got to the point that the absolute crying progressive liberals of Europe are starting to get on board that we need to get this guy and his team out of there, right? I mean, that's how in your face it is that the liberals are actually willing to turn on themselves, which we know they do. They'll do very quick, happily. But that's where the point we are now. Do you guys have anything you want to say about the WHO, or any particular angle you want to take at it?
Um, the WHO just reinforces yet again why globalist organizations are the enemy of all free people in the world. They can easily be curtailed by powerful, evil empires like
Yeah,
China.
yeah.
Uh, and they're not really necessary. Let's be honest. They're not. America does all of their work.
They
That's
would
who
be
does their
handy
work.
though if they were functioning and
Yeah, but I just don't
non-political.
think I don't think we need them. I don't think we need most of the World Trade Organization. None of these big globalist slush funds. We don't need
Yeah.
them. They're
No,
a
I
waste of
agree.
time. They don't produce anything
I agree.
that can't be produced by the firms in this country alone. I mean, we still
Sure.
produce what 70-80% of all medical breakthroughs, some ridiculously high number.
Oh yeah.
What,
No,
what do we
that's
need?
true.
What do we need the World Health Organization for? To slow us down? That's
Well,
about all they're good for.
But keep in mind that an American point of view, worldview, is not the same as everybody else, because
Yeah.
America is capable of doing everything on its own,
You,
but not
you ready
everyone
for a beep?
is.
You ready for a beep?
Oh
Fuck them.
yeah, fuck them.
Let's take care of Americans.
Oh
Let's
well,
take care of Americans. The rest of
yeah,
the world will catch up as they do.
you know,
Well, these globalism thing. I mean, that's the key word to this. That's why we haven't shaken them off.
yeah,
That's why the UN is on our soil, because
yes,
there are too many parties in this country with power, money, and influence that keep this stuff going. This kind
yeah,
of goes back to our original show, the Boogaloo Part One,
yeah. Well, this
where
is
I
part
said that
three, so it's connected.
unfortunately, I think we've been pushed into a position. That's the only way out of this, because they're not
Possibly.
going to let go.
It depends. Well, we'll see how that works out, because I think we're going to see quite a bit of change this year. 2020 is going to go down in history as a very interesting year, I think, because I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again. On paper, globalism looks like a great idea, just like communism, or I should say Marxism, right? It does, but it doesn't work that way, because for the same reason, they both don't work for the same reason. You people are involved in the equation, right? And this globalism thing has shown itself very clearly to be a very bad direction to go, because a lot of the troubles we're having right now are because of the globalism, moving all production into third world countries, mainly into China, turning big countries like mainly America into a consumer, an eater only, and it's simply this machine to churn out dollars and or labor or whatever the situation is on the country. It has proven itself to be absolutely disastrous with
Mm.
this. So that's a good thing when this virus has come out of this, dude. Is that because a lot of
Well, what
countries
do
are going to
you?
pull back their production to their home, as they should.
What's your opinion on the performance of our current president, though? I'm not seeing a guy who's trying to stop globalism. I'm seeing a guy who's happy to go right along.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me. But I would give him, as far as the ongoing emergency, the crisis, I would give him, I don't know, 70, 75. I think he's done a good job overall. I think
So
he
that's
has.
like a D, though, isn't it?
It is a DC,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
D to
I
a
I
C,
don't
yeah,
think he's failing, but it's low. It's
yeah.
low.
but that's from my point of view. Other people would give him probably more like a B. To I don't know if anyone's given him an A, but I think you'd have plenty of Bs. And then of course have a bunch of people who just doesn't matter what he does, he's a failure, right? But overall, I'm happy with what he's done, though. I think he's been on the right direction. He's been, understand he's under a lot of pressure, and he's being fought at every angle of what he's trying to do, and he's been pretty accurate along the way. In this current situation, where we're seeing he's pushing real hard, saying that we need to open this country everywhere we can open it, right? And he's right. So I'm not. I don't have any negative words for Trump right now, to be honest with you.
When I see people in handcuffs, I'll change my opinion.
Oh,
There,
okay.
there,
Yeah,
there are crimes being committed that are being
there are.
allowed.
There are. Which I guess that would bring us to over to here. So let me come over here. Which this brings this up. We're talking about crimes because that's a pretty open-ended thing, right? Now, this is Governor Whitler. What's her name again?
Whitmer.
Oh, Whitmer, not Whitler. Oh, I'm sorry. But this lady is a real piece of work. She's not the only one. She's just kind of the one that got caught out, right? Because there's plenty of leaders in America and other places around the world that are taking advantage of this situation. They're like little children in a candy store, and they're trying their best to, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They want to enact their their so-called democratic socialism, which is just Marxism, right? They want to enact it, and they're trying to take advantage of the situation. And she put in just absolutely draconian rules in Michigan, and the Michiganians are pushing back as they should. Right, just like we saw the Virginians pushing back, and I think we're going to see a lot of pushing back, and as they should. Right, that's an American tradition to push back, and I certainly hope that everyone is thinking about pushing back, because this woman, I'm going to get I'm going to get hit anyway, so I'll just say it. That she's a damn Nazi, dude. She is.
Eh, I don't know. I think there's so many problems across the board. She's not being she's reacting to the fear that all of these people are reacting to, where they don't want to not make it extreme enough and then have to deal with that later.
Dude, they're
Because
arresting husbands for kissing their wives and for people walking on their own damn property out in public.
okay, but you know what? She's not doing that. Who's doing that?
The cops,
Yeah, and
under
so
her ruling.
what is going on with law enforcement in this
Oh, well.
country?
Oh, come on, dude. That's a big problem with law enforcement anyway. There's plenty of good cops. I don't, I'm not going to say anything bad about the cops because in general they are a very necessary thing that I want to support. But just let's be realistic about it. Who wants the job? There's a lot of jobs in the world that unfortunately attract the wrong people, right? You want good politician, good luck, because a good person can't survive this the progress, the game, right? They can't survive it, right? And who wants to become a cop? Well, the average person wants to become, or a definitely group that wants to become a cop is the bully at school because of that shield and that gun, that power, right? So there's plenty of cops that fall into that category, and we've talked about this too. That especially with them lowering the IQ threshold for cops and all the stuff they've been doing with them, cops have become fearful. So when I was a kid, cops were the brave amongst us, but not anymore. They're scared. How many videos have we seen of a cop just trembling, shooting his gun off, trembling, running backwards, right?
Oh yeah,
This
and
is
so many of
not
them are
a cop, huh?
so many of them are just terrible shots too, because
Well,
they're not trained properly at all in a lot of places. They don't require them to keep up a certain level of accuracy to carry a weapon. They just give them all weapons and let it roll the dice, Eddie. Um, the reality is, and this is a complete tangent from what we're actually talking about, but the police in this country are a problem simply because too many of them will follow any order.
yeah.
That's a huge huge
Well,
problem.
and part of the root of the problem is the police union that has made it impossible for them to get rid of police officers, so they continually have to drop the
Yeah.
standards
Same thing
across
with
the board.
education, right? Yeah.
Well, the police union also tries to limit how many people can be officers too through the other way. So they want they want to make sure that they have just the right amount of people that are just the right amount of incompetent, it seems, that will obey any order. Competent people won't obey any order. That's what makes them
Yeah.
competent. But an incompetent person will, because they're afraid if they don't, they'll lose their job.
Yeah. And it's
A
been
really
20
competent
years.
person doesn't worry about that.
It's been 20 years since I've worked directly with the police, but at that time I did see some worrying things. But I also got to see on the other line of that, the other side of the blue line, right?
Mhm.
And in general, and it's been 20 years, so I mean, a lot can happen in that time. But in general, the feeling I had was, yes, there are some troubles here, but in general, the concept is solid. That's what it was 20 years ago for me. Now, I don't know where it sits right now. But because I don't like to badmouth cops because it's a tough job, dude. And in general, I want to respect them. I want to honor them. You know what I mean? I mean that's my natural go-to.
I'm personally, here's my opinion. I don't give anybody universal praise ever.
No, that's true.
um, because they won't accept universal guilt. So until every police officer will accept the guilt from the bad officers, I won't give them all praise. I'll give good
Or
cops praise. I'll
or
give
how about
individual cops
just
praise.
standing up and saying something about the bad officers?
Well, what
Yeah,
happens is
the blue brotherhood, dude. That's a very, very, very difficult thing to do, man.
a lot of them do, and then they get fired
Yeah,
because the captain or whoever of that particular area doesn't want that pointed out. Right? It's bad PR. It's
yeah,
bad this. It's all political BS. Where the cop's job should be to point that out. That's, I mean, quite literally their job. At least it used to be, was to stop bad people from doing bad things. Um, the problem is, like I said, there's just too much politics involved. It's way too politicized by everybody, by anti-cop people and pro-cop people. Like, there's some people who are just straight up hardcore bootlickers who will do
yeah.
anything police tell them to, no questions asked. And I'm
Police.
like, bruh, you got to slow down. I'm all for respect and law and order, but there's got to be a limit.
Yeah, but
You
it's true,
can't just,
true. And I'm not a fool. But you understand what I'm saying.
yes.
I think one thing that a lot of people have seen during this is that notion that military and law enforcement would never side with the government against the people. I think that's been dashed to pieces.
I don't think so. I just don't think it's bad enough yet for them to break ranks. And it's
No,
very localized
now,
too.
and that's a good point, Joe. She is getting, as many other governors and leaders around the world, they are getting pushback from the cops. They are, not all though. That's the problem. But there are, especially the more local municipalities, the sheriffs, they
Yeah.
are much more pushing back than say the cops, the metro type cops themselves. But that's a fair
And
point.
police are not required to enforce illegal orders or unconstitutional orders. They don't have to.
No, it's particularly sheriffs are not. Yeah, that's true. And we're seeing a lot of them not doing it. But I didn't know the conversation was going to go this direction. But it's a fair conversation though. Joe says a group of county sheriffs announced Wednesday that they will not enforce some of Governor Gretchen Whitmer's lockdown orders. Good, because she, as far as as far as she's concerned, she wants to shut the state down for years. I mean, that she said this, right? This is not me being hyperbolic, right?
It's just a power grab. That's all it
Oh
is. They
yeah, no.
understand that under a state of emergency situation, governors have near supreme authority, um, as does the president, and that's fine. There's a reason for that, because you need that form of autocracy when things need to be decided upon right now. You don't have time for committee. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with it when you try and extend that to things that have one you have absolutely no business dealing with, like a husband kissing his wife or a person walking around on their own property. I saw some guy in New Zealand got arrested for he was out in the middle of nowhere camping, and they sent a helicopter after him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's so.
There's
That's
Yeah, the
just
resources and the cost to do
yeah,
something like
there's videos of cops chasing boats down on the lakes, and
yeah.
there's all kind of videos. I saw one of a bike guy getting tackled, right? And this is not in
That's not
China.
an overreaction.
If you want to
No.
see some pretty interesting videos, go watch the Chinese ones because they're
Oh
getting
my God.
beaten down and thrown in literally thrown in little metal boxes, dude. Yeah, China. Yeah, they always take it to that extra level, don't they? That's the effort. Joe Morone says leadership is obliged to justify itself daily. Isabel Patterson. Yep, that's true. Uh, let's see. Talking about police standing up for up to corrupt police, Serpico. hmm See how that worked out?
Yeah.
Oh goodness gracious! I'm so
Well,
glad I live
the
outside of
police
any
have
incorporated city. Yeah,
the
yeah,
police, for the most part, have been transformed into a protection organization for politicians
yeah,
and the system.
yeah. In the cities,
Yeah.
To be fair. But yeah, no. So this is I'm caught up with the chat, but this is ridiculous, and she's just one example. She's not the only one, right? She's just an example of overreach, and she's going to pay for it, dude. A lot of people are going to pay for it. I'm telling you, when this is all done, I'm saying around maybe December, right after the election, December, January next year, a lot of people are going to start paying for what they've done. Things are going to come to or have come to a head without question. China is going to pay hard. And let me give you a little bit of understanding what's going on in China. I've covered a lot of little things. Of course, they lie. Their numbers are anywhere up to 50 times greater than they have stated, right? But we know that already. Let me give you another little bit of insight that is something you probably don't know. There are riots going on across China all day, every day. The Communist Party is in full panic mode, trying to keep control of the situation. And understand this: since February, they have been telling the people in China that America created this virus and sent it to China intentionally as an
Sure, I
attack,
have no
right?
doubt.
No, they have. Now you say, okay, well, yeah, all they have to do is look on the internet and see that's not true. Well, they don't have internet. Understand? They don't even have Twitter, dude. Right? Now, there's plenty of people who know how to get around it with VPNs and stuff like that, and some of them get arrested and disappear. This happens every day in China. This is not a joke. This is not some kind of, beginning to some meme or pun. It's real life that's getting blown out. There's a kid right now that everyone's trying to rally around here in Asia. It's a little kid. The freaking cops, because her mom, because what they're doing is, but by the way, Wuhan is completely locked down. Don't listen to any of that nonsense. It's completely locked down. It's not open. But what happens is these guys that can go are allowed. They have like a special license where they can go out, buy a bunch of food, bring it back to their block, and then they'll sell it to you. But of course, they jack the prices through the roof. And a bunch of people in this one little block were complaining and yelling at him. Basically, it was the moms, because it's always the moms in that situation that are getting upset about it, right? And what did the cops do? They came in, broke down their doors, dragged the moms away. They haven't been seen, right? The reason why we know about this particular situation, because there's a little kid, like a 10, 12-year-old kid, that's by himself at home, that is on the internet on their side of the internet, which we can see. They can't see our side. Who's begging for help, right? Because there's no one to take care of him. There's no one to do anything for him. And this is something that's going on every day in China. There's a bigger threat of people starving to death in greater numbers than have died from this virus in China, right? But they've been telling that, and those people don't know. Most people don't know any wiser. So understand, the average Chinese person is in full-on hate of America right now because America put them in this nightmare, right? That's what they
But
think.
there is a sizable portion though that know,
There is,
and
there is.
and they're
But
getting
the
shut
old
down.
people don't.
They're probably getting disappeared.
They are. Well, we have reports every day coming out here about people disappearing because they've dared to say anything, just disappearing. Now, this is nothing new. China does this all the time, right? And this is once again, this comes back to my point that I'm completely baffled by. Back in the 50s, when this all went down, the United Nations decided to acknowledge the presence of communist China. Now, for first of all, why? All right. But as time has gone by, they have given more and more rights and access to China to the point that they have a lot of influence in the United Nations. And that whole time, remember that Taiwan, or it used to be called Formosa, right? And it became Taiwan because the leadership that was in China when the Communist Revolution was going on, they escaped to Taiwan. And they've been bunkered down there ever since. And America has stood behind them since that initial event, right? And we always have. But and do keep in mind, Taiwan used to be recognized by the United Nations, but not anymore because China has pushed it out, right? My question is, why in the hell is anyone giving any authority to China? Why are we producing anything in China? Why are we buying anything from in China? Things have not gotten better; they've gotten worse. You think Tiananmen was bad, dude? It's way beyond Tiananmen now. And I don't understand the world. What are you doing? It's a communist, tyrannical regime. It murders people, it kidnaps people, it has slavery. It is a disgusting dictatorship. But yet, so many countries in the world praise China. So many companies in the world come into China and use their cheap labor. They are all evil bastards. There's no reason we should have been dealing with China at all at any time. And yet, look where we
But
are.
you said it. Companies. It's all about money. Always.
Yeah, but dude, it's out. It's beyond the pale, dude. I mean, come on. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's you don't see people piling on in North Korea. And to be fair, I don't think North Korea is as bad because North Korea is a bad regime, but it's very honest about what it is in a way, where China is more insidious. And I just don't get it. I don't understand what the hell we're doing. We should have no relationships with China at all. We never should have. It doesn't make
Well, there's
sense.
Chester, there's a political party in this country that has a lot of power that loves communism.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying there it is. And we have a lot of liberals who vote Democrat no matter what. Because it's just we gotta stand against the Republicans. But it's like, all right, well then you're a communist too. And we know they're not. But that's what you're doing. You're supporting communism. And these people have been doing this for a long time. Keep in mind, this oppression stuff against black people, putting them down, using them as a tool, this has been going on for 100 years, right?
Yep.
And this 100 years is a little over, about 110 years. That window of time is really when things started getting real bad when it came to the communists, which makes sense. Of course, we had the Bolshevik Revolution and all that stuff. But I'm just saying that it's disgusting and it needs to stop. And I really hope that people have got a good sniff of it up in their nose now. And when this is all said and done, that we really bring the hammer down on China. We should lock them down and shut them out and crush that economy. Crush it. We don't need to go in there and make any war. Let those people stand up and do what they should have done decades ago. Because this is one thing I don't like with Mexico, where one of the things that's most useful about putting a wall up is making the people from Central and South America go back to their countries and bring them into freedom. Because as long as they're having easy out, they're not going to do that. These people, people said, don't blame the Chinese, don't blame the Mexicans. Why not? It's their country. They need to stand up for it. Because I guarantee
All right.
you, I
But
would.
Chester, you're missing a major part of this.
Am I?
That is not going to change until we solve the problem that we have going on in this country. This we have a second Bolshevik revolution dead set on destroying this country.
That's true.
Those things you're saying that we have to do are never going to happen as long as this new Bolshevik group is out there and they're not in the shadows. They are in
Oh
Congress.
no, they
They
aren't.
are in they are in governor's houses all over the country.
Yeah.
They are, they're mayors. They're all over the place.
Well,
They're running
I know that
social
dude.
media.
Yeah,
They're
I
running
know.
social media. So, it's not going to change, and nothing is going to change until people really you cannot do anything about a problem unless you identify it. You can't cure a disease until you know what it is.
Yeah, no, and I apologize for my ranting, but it's just it really pisses me off, dude. It really pisses me off because
No,
for
I get
me,
that. It pisses me off too that just for for 20 years you have people on both sides of the aisle so caught up in this nonsense, and they won't even look inward for a second. The right is just as guilty as the left with all the neocons. These are not
sure,
America firsters.
no, they're not.
They they
Well,
want they want the United States to be a labor pool to take care of their interests.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. But for me, I don't mind living in the gray. But right is right and wrong is wrong when it comes right down to it. Thundero,
neocons are communists. Do
they
not
are.
delude yourself. There is no,
Absolutely, they are.
there is no difference between a neocon and a communist other than a slight variations in how to apply the ideology. They want the same
It's
thing
the
that the
same group of
CCP
people.
wants. Yeah,
They've infiltrated both parties, and they have just taken a, a couple of different talking points and they've split them between each other, and they're all going for the same goal.
yes, correct. Well,
Yeah.
here we would call them. Back in the day, you would call them like Trotskyists, Leninists, whatever. Different branches of communism. Here we would call them neocons and neoliberals. They're both communist, and my cat is apparently just going insane on my chair for some reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Um,
like the Labor Party in Britain, of course, is very much Trotsky based, right? I mean, yeah, it's
yes,
it's true. But
Is anybody not curious why so many American Jewish people on the side of the left are so into communism?
well, because they're
Look at the
secular, they're
names
not
of the
Jews, dude. They're
authors.
not Jews. They're secular.
Well, no, they're not religious Jews.
Oh,
ethnic
yeah, I
Jews.
just yeah, okay, yeah, cool. But I don't want to get in
So
trouble talking about the
what's
Jubases because
no, I
those guys got
understand
power.
that,
They're
but
dangerous.
yeah, and that's part of what we're facing.
Yeah.
The organization, the coordination, and nobody cares that they certainly don't care that they're Jewish at all until they need it to be offended because someone pointed
Oh,
out that
that's
they're
true.
Jewish.
Yeah, this
These they don't care
pity party
anything
stuff. Yeah.
about. They don't care about Israel. They hate Israel. And on the other side, you have a group on the right that cares more about Israel than this country, and they would liquidate this country to protect those interests.
Yeah.
So, and then somewhere down the middle, you have all the voices that never get heard. All you hear are these fringe kooks on either side.
Yeah, no, it's true. Let me catch up with the chat because they are definitely involved in this conversation, dude. So let me get over here and just feel free, you guys, to chime in if you have any opinion of what they're saying. Bullet says China doesn't have Twitter. Lucky. Well, the interesting thing about that, one of their propagandists, which is his job, it's actually his title. He was telling the Chinese people how on Twitter he was fighting against this and that of the West, the horrible, evil West, right? And a lot of people in China were like, "Well, why the hell do you have Twitter and we don't?" It was interesting how they twisted it on him. But and that same dude, by the way, the guy who was saying the American military was responsible for this, that has been completely squashed in the West, not in China, of course. That same guy is being quoted without telling you who he is. He's being quoted by the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN daily. These guys are quoting the literal titled propagandists of the Communist Party in China. They're quoting him daily. Are you
That's
shitting me?
that's real easy to explain. China owns a lot of those companies or has high investment into them. Also, they do a little quid pro quo. You give us a little back rub over here, we'll let you operate over here without bugging you. Because make no mistake, the Chinese will absolutely liquidate journalists in a heartbeat. It's not even a question.
Oh,
That'll be
they've
one of
done
the
it
first things.
before. Yeah, they've done it before.
Geez,
That's why
this Governor Whitler has got quite a healthy set of lungs on her, doesn't she?
she's not a bad looking lady at all. I'm not. She's fine looking lady. But I mean, that's what's going on in Hong Kong. You realize they're trying to protect themselves from exactly that, and it's still
Yep.
going on. By the way, even though no one's talking about it over in the West, that's still going on. right? Just like Ukraine is still going on, even though no one talks about it, right? Let's see. So that was one comment. Whew, this is gonna be a long one. All China's C virus whistleblowers disappeared. They have, dude. It's not good, man. The police have become the new redcoats. I think you have to categorize out the police, but in some ways, that I think, unfortunately, that is true. Um, Joe Maroney says, "Ask me about the Philadelphia China connection regarding the virus. I did some digging. I did some digging and found some serious shit regarding genetic research at the U of P. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going on if we want to kind of get into the conversations about where did this all start, because it's quite interesting to me that you guys do realize here on this show together, we were talking about this in January, right? If you guys remember, we were talking about this and I was like, man, Trump's being kind of slow, right? And even now that you look back on it, Trump was like one of the first Western leaders. Actually, he was the first Western leader to get on it. But we were talking
Yep.
about him being slow here, right? Because we've been talking about this since the beginning. And we also were talking about the fact that it might have come out of laboratory, because that's one of the initial ideas, and that has picked up steam. Have you guys noticed that?
Absolutely, and there's credible evidence that we paid for that lab as well, that
Yeah,
it
yeah.
came out of.
China and
Oh, we
Canada as
absolutely.
well. Yeah,
Well, when I say we, Obama did. The Obama
Right.
administration
yeah,
gave them a nice big fat grant, so
yeah,
basically just gave them money um, to work on, virus research. In other words, we were probably funding biological weapons without saying we're funding
yeah.
biological
I
weapons.
think so.
That's how.
Well, and
Yeah,
and I say we because the Obama administration didn't ever have any money. The government doesn't have any money that they don't take from us. So we bought that lab.
in
You
a
and I
way,
bought
in a way. And Canada was involved too. We know the whole debacle that happened in Canada back the end of last year, and a lot of people had made that connection between the situation because it was virologists that got kicked out of Canada. But now we are, as Joe is making point, we're starting to see other universities were involved in that chain of study. Now, I personally don't think this was an intentional drop. I think this was just typical Chinese half-assedness, and it was accidentally got out of the lab, if that's where it came from. But I do think it's very interesting that has become the kind of mainstream conversation. I didn't think it ever would, so I was wrong on that. Let's see. Hinnekirk says Chester's showing his Japanese side, the best side, of course. Well, thank you. Ray Thule says, "Preach, Chester." All right. Well, I get fired up sometimes, you know. I do apologize. Uh, Junkyard Dunn says, "Look at the new Top Gun movie. They erased the Taiwan and Japan patches from Maverick's jacket. Something so innocuous just to appease China." Wow, dude. Jesus. That just makes me sad. Damnation. CEOs of companies are globalists. China is the front for globalists. Yep. Yep.
absolutely. Once the World Bank was able to get a foothold in China, you started to see a lot of this stuff going on.
Yeah.
And the World Bank is in China. They have uh, all kinds of Westerners over there
Oh yeah, no,
involved.
a lot, dude. Yeah. Tolfer says, wasn't Nixon the first president to visit and open relations with China? Yeah, and do keep in mind that there's plenty of things people like to knock on Nixon about. Of course, it's never the right things. But Nixon's also the one who basically officially took us off the gold and put us on the petrodollar. Understand
Yep.
that he did that, right? Yeah.
Which we're probably stuck with forever now. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Well,
old Richie boy.
yeah, but just look what they've done with that. Now, I'm not going to say
Yep.
what he did was innocent, because it wasn't. But they any country that you look at that America has attacked since then has been about oil, right? And it's been and if you look at what those countries are doing, they tried to get themselves off the petrodollar, and then all of a sudden, American military was in there on them. Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, et cetera, et cetera. So
Oh, the Ayatollahs in the
yeah,
70s. As soon as we went in the 70s, it's been Middle East from here on out. Middle East, nonstop.
it's true. It is. Let's see here. Lockdown China, Philadelphia was raising the CCP flag at city in October as a show of diversity. I found out why. Yeah, no, it's disgusting, isn't it? All these countries just sitting there, and all these politicians and all these university professors and stuff just waving that Chinese flag, even though it is the most dangerous and evil country we have on the planet. It is. Now, I understand some of those you might want to push back and say America is pretty dangerous too, and that's fair. That's fair,
Hmm.
but it's not coming from the same point of view. It's simply not.
Yep.
The Bill of Rights and the Constitution makes America different, and we push back, and we always have, and we always will. So
Well,
it's
if we're not careful, though, if we're not careful, we're going to end up being that problem in the world because
we could.
there's getting to be too many people of influence with this mindset that are going to swing us to that direction where we basically become nothing but a labor pool to pay for a military. And
Yeah.
that's almost where they have us.
Well,
And man, we're going to be in trouble if people don't start growing wise to this.
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing about that is Trump is a moderate, right? He's not an ultra conservative, but he is conservative in many ways. But he is the most conservative president we've had since frickin' Reagan.
Hmm.
And I mean,
Oh, no
because
question.
George Bush is a frickin' rhino for damn sure. But all of them, they're so warmongery, dude. Obama attacked more countries than any president in America's history. You know that, right?
And the left loves them.
They love war because they're the violent ones, and that's the problem. If America falls to this democratic socialism nonsense, if it falls to that, and the people in the countryside just no longer can have a voice, which could happen, right? America will become a very dangerous thing, dude.
Well, the good news is it probably will happen, but it won't last for very long. I just don't. I know too many Americans who are like me, and it will just tell you, no, we're not going to live that way. We're not going to live under communist rule, not directly anyway. That's why they use all these stupid, ridiculous names like progressive and democratic socialism and neocon and neoliberalism. It's all just different shades of Marxism. It's all just
Yeah.
communism, and it's enough. I really think there is a huge groundswell of support anti-globalist in America. There's definitely one in Europe,
Oh
but
yeah.
there's a huge in America. And when Trump said, and unfortunately he didn't live up to it, not at least not totally. In some ways he has, but not totally. America will no longer be led by the false song of globalism or something to that effect. That got a lot of people's attention. There was a reason there were so many first-time voters under Trump. There was a reason so many people went, well, wait a minute. What did he just say? Because for years, I remember this, for about 20 years or so, if you talked about globalism, people treated that like a conspiracy theory. Like, you think a whole group of people control the world?
Illuminati.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that. I mean, we can talk about that if you'd like, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an ideology. It's just international Chinese corporate communism. That's all it is. And we make it as simple for you as possible. Look at China, apply that to the world. That's what these people want.
Well,
I don't want
folks,
to live
if you thought 2016 election was wild, get ready for this one because it's going to
Oh
be a
yeah.
wild ride.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a lot of the things we're seeing happening on YouTube and Google particularly, it's because they are playing ball for the left side, and they're doing
Absolutely.
everything they can to make sure that Trump loses. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Slick, you can speak up, dude.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah,
I can.
you can.
I didn't even know he
Yes.
was in here.
I was waiting for a break in the conversation, and there just never was one. It was so fascinating.
I had to apologize. I get on rants sometimes.
Yeah, people are like blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah, blah blah blah.
I'm just kidding. It's fine. We're at the mercy of the winds of change and all that bullshit. But I mean, you're
Scorpions?
yeah, in a bad way, not a good way like that one was. So if you're worried about the future, well, be worried. Just guard your backyard. That's all I say. Guard
Yeah,
your
well,
backyard.
I guess when it comes down, that's all you can really do. But that might
I
be
mean,
enough.
yeah. What can you do? I mean, unless you want to go into politics and then become a scum-sucking bastard.
Well, and being worried about the future is actually a good thing because there's too many people that that think that we are living in some new era where nothing bad really can happen, and it shouldn't ever happen. And you
This whole
should.
thing should teach everybody. We're 72 hours from complete just batshit craziness if everything falls apart.
Yeah.
And things hasn't fallen apart yet. Like everybody's saying, "Oh, it's terrible right now," and I'm like, "No, it's not." I mean,
You haven't seen
uh,
anything yet.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
you
that's
haven't
true.
seen anything. You just have to look out at places like Syria. There's a good place to start and see what can happen. Look at Lebanon, how it's been for 50 years now.
Well, that is kind of part of our overall theme tonight, Chester, about that
Wiping your butt.
this actually still could get really bad.
It
Oh yeah,
could.
we're not out of this yet.
We're not out of it yet. That's true, and particularly because it'll probably rear its head next year. But that's kind of the whole point of the conversation. We're still on the political side. We're going to get to the other side momentarily. I just want to kind of get through the chat before I do, because the chat has got some really cool things to say, man.
Real quick, one thing, like he was Model just said, we're not out of this yet. You have Trump out there tweeting about liberate. Now he's speaking politically, but he was screaming liberate Virginia, liberate Michigan. I think he said another state too, New York maybe. I don't remember. It was no one other state. He
Virginia.
put Virginia, yeah, on Twitter, and directly called to protect the Second Amendment. Now I don't know if he's aware of this. He might
Love
be.
it.
He might not be. But the fact that he used that language, whether he knows it or not, is a call to arms.
It is, and he knows it.
I think he does know it.
He knows it.
And
Yeah.
it needs to happen. If anybody in here is from Virginia and you care about this, you care about liberty, you care about your right to keep and bear arms, you just care about Virginia in general, you need to get prepared. It's going to get very tense. I'll use that word.
Yeah, no, it
Very,
is, and
soon.
because they had a victory over there in Virginia, right? But then this thing came along, and these damn governors are taking advantage of the situation, just like the Whitler lady. But anyway, let me continue on here because there are some things in the chat I want to talk about. In China, Africans are blamed for C virus and tossed out of apartments and not allowed to eat at restaurants, including McDonald's, by the way. And understand that the CCP is doing everything they can to deflect blame because they're under serious threat right now. They really are. And it's easy. It's the same thing that our boy Adolf there, that Chowderhead, did in Germany, right?
Chowder.
No, it's exactly what he did. He tried to find someone to blame to unify his people, right? And that was the Jubases that he put his finger on. Asian people in general aren't super hyped about the black peoples very much, but in general they kind of just whatever. But the Chinese particularly do not like blacks at all, which I
No,
find
they
very
do not.
ironic, seeing as China is doing its best to own all of Africa. You worry for those people, right,
They
dude?
will genocide the blacks out
They
of
will,
wherever they
dude.
get
They
control
will.
of. They do not like black people.
They don't.
Some of it is superstition,
It is, yeah.
and then some of it is just xenophobia. But they do not like they were everybody will remember the Force Awakens poster, how they photoshopped Finn out of it.
Yeah.
They did. And let me give you a little insight into the superstition of it. This might help. There is in the old gods. Now we understand that Chinese, of course, communists, they try to burn God out of every conversation. Of course, got to kill God, right? But you can't kill God, right? I mean, it's just like the Christians, not the Christians, the Catholics tried to create Halloween. But they couldn't get rid of all that damn Samhain or Samhain, right? They couldn't get rid of it. But this is where it's coming from. With the old gods, the old animistic gods of Asia, which are the same as everybody else's gods, by the way, they're a person who guards the underworld, their Nurgle, right, is called Enma, right? And Enma is very distinctive looking. He is black skinned, and he is the guardian of the underworld. Now he's not the devil. He's not an evil character. That is much more of a modern concept, right? But he is a dangerous thing that should be opposed and avoided, right? So you have this general idea of the black skinned being a dangerous thing anyway. And that's where of course, the black people come into the conversation. But yes, they are doing this. It's just a scapegoat type of tactic, is all it is. But it's pretty bad. They are getting kicked out of apartments. They're getting arrested. They're getting tossed into small little areas. There's a whole bunch of blacks that are sitting in a there's an area between I think it's Russia and China, because I guess a lot of Africans were working at some factory up there, and they were trying to get out of the country because they were getting so much oppression against them. Right, they were just trying to run away, and they got into this border section between the two countries, and of course the Chinese police just let them go through. But the problem is the Russians have locked down their border with China completely, and they won't let them in. But then, so the blacks started to turn, and other Chinese too. It wasn't just blacks, but a lot of blacks. They tried to turn around and come back into China, but of course they're not allowed to come back into China. So you've literally, just keep this in mind, you have a large number of people, a good chunk of them blacks, Africans, that are sitting in a border crossing, and they've been there for weeks. Yeah, understand that. That's what's going on all over China. Yeah, the black people are under serious threat, dude, and it sucks. But it is what it is.
Unfortunately,
Now I'm sad.
the unmitigated hypocrisy of the Chinese to try and play the race card whenever anybody in America tries to criticize them, and then they go around and do that. Africa is in for a very bad time
They
with the
are.
Chinese basically conquering it, and no one's trying to stop them because
Yeah.
they're doing it with capitalism. Um,
They are. Yeah.
it's this is the reason we can't have nice things. Capitalism's a great system. It's wonderful, but it only works when people are honest. The Chinese are anything but that. And at all times, in fact, that you might as well, if you're talking to one, just assume they're lying to you because they probably are. Um, that is one of the reasons there has to be limits. There has to be limitations to everything,
Yeah.
even to capitalism. Like what you were talking about earlier, where you're talking about how did we allow this to happen? How did we let them send everything to China? Well, we had very smart capitalists here warning people that this was a bad idea
We
when
did.
it was starting to happen, especially in the 90s. I remember Ross Perot, that
Oh yeah.
crazy old billionaire,
Yeah.
is talking about a great sucking sound of all the wealth and jobs out of America will go funneling right into China if we pass NAFTA. 30 years later, looks like he was right.
Yeah. No. Yep. And I voted for him. Let's see here. Can we shut out China? Eric says this. Can we shut up China? How much our debt is? We owe them over $1 trillion. Well, this is a problem with many, many countries. All right. Let me give you an example with, say, Ecuador. Okay. Now, Ecuador is in very dire straits. They have no way to control this situation. They have people dead in the streets, literally just lying in the streets, right? They don't have very good infrastructure. And they are on the hook with China real bad, right? Because China came over and they built them this big old dam, this hydroelectric dam that will supply 30% of the country's energy. Pretty nice. The problem is they can't get the thing to work beyond 50% capacity because the thing is not built properly, right? But yet China still demands their $18 billion. And of course, Ecuador is forced to pay that debt off, even though they didn't get what they paid for. And they're paying it with petrol dollars because they have a lot of oil. So 80% of Ecuador's oil goes to China.
And you know what? I personally know someone who's an engineer that works on those Chinese dam projects, and a lot of money flowed into this country for those
I'm sure.
those dam programs.
I'm sure.
And everybody here loved it.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money.
Well, here's the thing, though, model. Right now is the perfect opportunity for many, many countries, including America, to slough off that debt. Because if we simply outlaw China, then we don't have to pay them a damn thing, do we? And this is the danger China has got themselves into, because there are many countries who would love to get out from underneath China, dude.
You're forgetting, though, who is establishing the credit and banking system in China. It's not the Chinese or the Chinese government. The World Banks went
I
in
know.
there 20, 30 years ago and started to set up a central bank. And so they're not going to let their debt be wiped.
I'm just saying they might not have a choice.
Oh, they
Right.
will. You watch.
Oh, we will. I'm just saying there's potential there. That's a good comment, Eric.
So,
Dave says,
people think that this country is so rock solid that the world just can't do without America. That they'll end America.
yeah,
They'll just end it.
they could try, but they'll find themselves quite a fight coming on. Dave says Republicans suck because they break their promises. Democrats suck because they keep theirs. Whew, that's an interesting statement.
Actually, even simpler than that. They suck because there's no difference.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
difference.
that's fair. Chester, stop talking about the Jewish people. I do apologize.
No, you know what? That is a subject that actually needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
And this idea that's been hammered into people that if you try to discuss this, that means that you dislike a group of people,
Yeah.
where you're against them, or you want to throw them in gas chambers. That has been something that has been hammered in people's minds,
It's
so
a
that you
problem.
can't question.
Yeah.
Now, the absolute truth is that a lot of people who hide behind being Jewish, they're not even ethnically Jewish.
Oh yeah,
They
no,
hide
that's
behind
fair.
it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that they can use that victim status.
A type of
And
blackface, right? Yeah.
well, and if people start to be honest about this and not be so afraid, then maybe you can start to identify a problem. You can start to work on a resolution for that problem.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
things can get better. They're not going to until that happens.
Well, I mean, there's really two conversations to be had that no one's talking about. One is the secular side of it, and the other is the Zionist, because that is the real danger, are the Zionists. Just like with the Muslims, Muslims aren't necessarily the problem. Islamists are, right? It's the same type of thing. But you can't talk about that. As a matter of fact, if I was in Europe, I could get arrested for what I just said.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's insane. But that's the reality we live under. Anyway, they say I'm almost caught up. China's research, yeah. That's during Obama's administration. Obama did a lot of stuff we're starting to see come out, man. Not good. Nixon took us off the gold standard and then sold the gold. FDR stole from America to China for pennies on the dollar, possibly. Now, to be fair, he made the petrodollar. He did the petrodollar thing officially, but
Correct.
we
We
were
were
actually
off the
off
gold
it.
standard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
long
Before
before that.
Kennedy.
Yeah, but long
Kennedy
before
was going
that.
to put us back on, and that's probably why he got the air let out of him in Dallas.
Oh wow, he did. But look what Joe said. Damn, Joe, good catch. Hey, speaking of Trump's call to arms, what is today's anniversary of? The shot heard round the world. Lexington and Concord. The British are coming. Uh, well, actually, they said the regulars are coming, but whatever. That doesn't matter.
British sound.
It does. It does. But anyway, wow, I didn't know that, dude. That's a nice catch.
Because
But
yesterday was what, Paul Revere's ride?
I guess
Yesterday or the day
so. I
before?
guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Trump knows that. He knows that.
Yeah, I know people like to think Trump's just a complete idiot. Trump's not a complete idiot. He has 150 something IQ. You can look at his transcripts from when he was in school. It says it right on there. He's a very intelligent man. He might speak like an idiot sometimes. He might
Mhm.
fumble his words and stuff. That's just because he's not a good orator. That doesn't mean he's
Yep.
not smart.
It's like Columbo.
He is a character for sure, but yeah, he's not a dummy.
No,
No, you
it's
don't
like
go
Columbo.
from
Yeah,
a
Columbo
few
wants
hundred
you to
million
think
dollars.
he's an idiot, right? Because he has more
Yeah,
power
you
that
don't
way.
go
Yeah.
from a few $100 million to a multi-billionaire of
No,
who knows how much. At
no.
one point, he was valued at about 10 billion. That doesn't happen by luck. That happens by being a very smart person. There's no stupid billionaires who earned it themselves. They
True.
don't
And
exist.
even if you dispute the amount of money, a lot of people dispute how much liquidity or how much assets he actually has. Imagine that he got into that that White House. That was against every power structure set up. It was against the media. It was against both parties. He somehow got in there, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised at some point if he just basically says, "Okay, America, it's time for you to take your country back," and that might be what he's doing right now, because it's
He's
starting to get
frustrated.
warm.
Yeah.
It's starting to get warm. The weather's getting good. People are going to start to get a little bit antsy in the pantsy. We always start getting our riots when it starts getting warm, and then
Yeah.
they stop. It starts getting hot.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
the time of the year is coming for a little bit of disturbance.
Well,
Yeah.
there's been the beginning of this was, through a few weeks ago we started talking about the big dance party. Um, there have been a lot of people who've been saying that the 2020s are going to be one of two things, and it'll really just depend on the economic situation. But oops, um, they're either going to be a time of global revolt, whether that's political, which has already started to happen, or physical, militarily, martial, or they're going to be a time of extreme, like, kind of like the 1920s were, right? A kind of a fun time, just a party time, at least in the West. Which there were still a lot of problems in the 1920s. It's just we don't remember those. Um, I think we're going to lean towards the Marshall. I really do not see this system continuing forever. Now, if the people who are fighting for, sovereignty and freedom lose, yeah, it will. That'll be it. Humanity will enter a new dark age, and we may never come out of it. But I think this is it. A lot of people get like upset about that, and I've been telling people for years, don't be upset about that. If that comes to pass, that this is the turning of the age, and we get to live in that time, that means we get to be the ones to choose. That's an unbelievable blessing more than anything.
Responsibility.
Yeah, it's a great thing. You know that the founders of America were living in revolutionary times too. All over the world, revolutions were popping off or being
Oh yeah.
sown.
Everywhere.
And
Yeah.
all of those men, at least for most Americans, are revered. The people who signed the Declaration of Independence, at least the real famous ones, because they chose. They made a choice. Now you can say there was a lot of stuff going on. They weren't maybe as honest as it. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they signed the document, and most of them died because of it.
That's right.
That's the reality.
That's an important point you just made. Most of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence died during that war.
Yep.
Right? Most of them. A lot of people forget that for some reason. But there's one thing that always brings me back to the amazing moment that revolution was. Those men who had power and wealth gave it up for the betterment of the people. That is straight up unarguable. And that is so rare. It is so
Yes.
rare. And we should always be appreciative of those men who did that. We should always
There
be.
were
And it disgusts
historically,
me when I see so many of these damn young people sitting there and mocking America. You have
yeah.
no clue what the hell you're talking about, and you should have your mouth washed out with soap.
Historically, if you go
I've
back,
said it
let me say this
before.
real quick, Model. Let me say this real quick, and then I'll shut up for a minute. Historically, if you go back far enough to the great republics of all time, which obviously is Rome, is probably the greatest besides America. We're right there together. There were great men who did just that for Rome too. That is what literally saved Rome and allowed it to become an empire. Were great men like that who were incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful, were given incredible responsibility. They did what they had to do and they gave the power back. That is something that is so rare in the world. And the people who got to live under that largely were blessed because of it. We've been blessed because of it. The entire world's been blessed because America exists, and they know it, and most of them hate it. It's a weird thing. One of the reasons why a lot of the elites around the world hate the Americans so much is because we make them look terrible, and they don't want to look terrible. They want to look good. But we are blessed to live in times like these. I know it sucks. I know it's hard. I know we're probably going to have to make some really hard choices, and a lot of us are. I'm doing it every day. My wife goes and works in a COVID ICU. I do it every day. I have to watch her go off and fight this shit. We are living in great times, though, because we get to choose. It's so powerful. Most people don't get that. Most people just get a system, and that's what they're in. We're not there, and we're not gonna ever be there.
Model.
I was just gonna make a quick comment that I've said it before and I'll say it again. The only way out of this is a boogaloo.
Yeah.
and people shouldn't be afraid of it.
Not at all. You shouldn't be afraid of dying. Die well, because you're gonna die.
Oh my
Everybody you know
goodness.
and love is going down.
All
It
right.
sucks,
Let me get my
but it's
Winchester.
reality.
Damn it.
It sucks that death is reality, but it is reality. There's a like Chester said earlier. There was a time when the custodians of hell weren't or of the underworld, rather, not necessarily hell, weren't considered evil. They were
No.
just were. Hades wasn't considered an evil god
No.
by most. He was just a god, and his job was to maintain the underworld.
Yeah.
Most of the gods of the dead are like that throughout history.
Yeah,
It's a
true.
recent thing that death has been seen as an evil force. It's not. It's a natural part of existence. Everything dies. Everything.
All right. Let me a couple comments here in the chat I'm going to cover, and then I'm going to talk about our second piece of things we want to talk about a little bit today. And I think actually the time we have left is kind of perfect for it. Careful, use words, something, or the masters use code words or something. The masters will shut you down. You're right. You're Alan. We'll keep that in mind. Chester, what happened with the 6+ earthquake today in Japan? Well, dude, I didn't know about it until you mentioned it. I've been sitting here working in the morning, and then I put the show on, so I haven't even had the TV. Of course, I hardly ever turn the TV on, so I'm unaware of it, dude. But after we're done here, I'll certainly check it out. Or my wife might have even left me a message. I haven't checked yet. Anyway, you guys don't know I'm horrible about that whole SNS stuff. Let's see here. Where's the other one? That's quoting me. How many of us will be signing the new Declaration of Independence? Well, I mean, that's a separate conversation. Cincinnatus. Ooh, Ray Thulu's about to bring some Roman history on us. Ooh, Cincinnatus. He's one of those great Romans that people hardly ever talk about, by the way. Was handed dictatorial power for 6 months. He gave up the power early, right after he defeated the enemy that caused Rome to select him as a dictator. And actually, George Washington quoted Cincinnatus
Yes.
when he gave up his power as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Very cool, Ray Thulu. You get extra brownie points from me.
Cincinnatus isn't alone. He was one of a few who did the same thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Caesar that didn't happen. But in fairness to Caesar, he kind of couldn't, because, as you've seen, he had enemies all around him,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, they beat him. Well, they beat him at least by killing him, but then his what is the word I'm looking, protege came in and wiped them all out. So,
Well, in my opinion, a sign of a good leader is someone who begrudgingly steps in to do a duty, but has no interest in doing it forever. These
Yeah.
fools that make 30, 40-year political careres, that's suspect right there.
Oh yeah. No, that's a fair point right there. That's a fair point.
In my opinion, that's an evil person, unless they're one of. There's very few exceptions, but in most cases, career politicians, they're not good people. Like, be honest, they're not good people.
Well, no,
And they're all B-type personalities too.
Oh goodness! Yeah. Oh goodness! Now we're getting to blood types. All right. Let me. We have about 30 minutes or so left, so let's jump into the other little section I wanted to cover today, and that is this. We did name this "Wipe Your Butt," but of course, obviously that covers many topics, and I did that intentionally. But this is part 3 of a series. We've been talking about prepping, boogaloo, ongoing problems, and it's very, very appropriate for what's going on, right? And of course, one of the things we covered a lot was just talking about, especially last week, I thought was a great show. We talked about a lot of the things you can do for preparing, and I found this picture on the internet, and I thought it was just beautiful. Look at that happy family.
But it's really stupid. Well, I know who to raid. Holy cow!
That dad looks like he could live off his hump for about 6 months.
Yeah, but come on, there's something beautiful about this picture too, though, dude.
No, I agree with you. It's just it's if you're into prepping and stuff like that, don't advertise it to this degree.
That's true.
That's just silly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What is their address?
I'm not going to try to find out, but I'm just saying. I just thought this was kind of. I mean, look how happy they are. Big old huge family, 6 kids. I just found something really pleasant about the picture. But of course, we covered this a lot. But today, what I wanted to take a little bit of time with is actually hygiene. And I don't mean just hygiene. I mean well-being, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about a lot of things that can be very stressful, and unfortunately, we're living in stressful times. It just is what it is. Some people get angry with me for talking about stressful things, and they just want entertainment. And some of the shows we do try to be just entertaining, and that's not what we're doing here. This is a conspiracy show, right? And I understand that, but at the same time, it is what we have, and therefore we should be equipped to deal with it, right? And hygiene, of course, is very important. Soap, keeping yourself clean, especially in these days. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I mean, except for such things like that. But there's more to it than that. It's deeper than that. And here I got a thing from the Apollo Clinic: 7 things to know about personal hygiene. But this is talking about general keeping clean. Take care of your teeth. Right. Keep your butt clean. Protect yourself from sounds. Keep your feet washed. Keep your shoes
Feet.
washed.
Yes, take
Yeah,
care of your feet.
yes. Women hygiene. Make sure that you're cooking with clean, good food. These things are important. Hygiene, of course, is very important, and we all know this. But we I don't know that we all practice it necessarily. Sometimes we forgetful. But these things need to be kept in mind, especially if you're in a lockdown. You need to be more observant of that. But for me, I mean, this is the obvious statement, and I don't think we need to talk about it too much because you guys know this. But I want to talk about more of the other things about well-being, such as entertaining yourself, games, interacting with people, mental health. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about that, if I may. Do you guys have anything you'd like to jump in on that?
Um, yeah, it's something I work on constantly. I've had battles with depression and stuff like that throughout my life. I have extreme, very bad anxiety, just sometimes to the point of near hyperventilation. It's pretty rare though; it doesn't happen very often, but it's happened in the past. But one of the things that people have to understand is that all of this well-being, mental health, happy, well, mental health a little bit less depending on the situation, but usually is a choice.
Of
It's an
course.
activity. It's something you have to work on and do daily, whatever that is. If you're stressed out and you have to find the thing that you can do pretty much every day or every day that relaxes you, that lets you get in that zone where you can just be for a while. Some people like meditation, some people like sleep, some people like just reading a book, playing a video game, whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. You got to take care of you. Life is way too short to be miserable.
Yeah.
And you're getting one crack at this thing as far as we know, so you might as well be happy.
Yeah, that's fair. And the interesting thing, I have great compassion for people who do have to deal with stress or have bouts of depression and stuff like that. I'm actually very compassionate about it because personally, I've never had it. I don't know why. What is it about a person's makeup that they either will have bouts of depression or they won't? Because and I'm not being hyperbolic. I've never been depressed in my life. I mean, I've been angry. I've had many of emotions, but they don't last more than a few seconds. I just never had it, so I don't know what the mechanism is, but I'm certainly compassionate for it, without question.
I don't know what
I'm fortunate as well. I don't have to deal with stuff like that. Although I am very restless. I can't gather any moss. That's for sure.
Oh, I see. Maybe we're just sociopaths.
Could be. Could be. Yeah. I think right now it's like you say with video games and stuff like that. I think some of it's getting excessive. I think people are becoming detached
Oh yeah.
with social media and with the pop culture. They're they're detached from the reality of this, and that's why this is stressing people out so much. When I say, if there's an issue, you definitely shouldn't just put your head in the sand and ignore it. But there is a limit to how much you should be stressing about things, because if you've ever stressed about something really bad, there's a way you can stress about it which just puts you in a state of black where you can't even function. But there's a healthy level that makes you either work harder or be proactive or learn. from that. And I think it's important to distinguish between that, and understand that if you're just sitting worried about something, that doesn't mean that you're being effective in
Mhm.
any way. You have to,
That's fair.
if you stress, you have to actually work for a solution.
Yeah. You
And
know,
I'll tell you, I had a relationship with a lady. In case I don't want to be accused of anything,
it's
but
okay. Booster's not here.
she had some of her own issues, probably bordering on the bipolar. And once the arguing, once you break the seal on the arguing, then the arguing starts to become a lot.
Yeah, well, dude,
So
you broke rule number 2 of manhood. Don't dip your beak in crazy.
absolutely, crazy is fun,
It
and when you're
is.
young, you have more energy for crazy.
That's
I don't
true.
have that energy anymore. But one of the things that I capitulated on, she insisted that I read that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Have you ever read that?
I have. Yeah.
It's actually quite interesting, and how and women were so into that book, but I don't think many women actually learned from that book.
Well, I don't think
I
they
think
get it. I don't think
think
they
men
understand it.
learn
Yeah.
more from the book, and that one of the main fundamental differences between men and women is how they approach a problem. Where sometimes where a woman wants to just kind of discuss it, to express it, whereas a man is usually his first thought is to go for a solution.
Oh, men are
So,
easy. Food, toilet, women. Yeah.
but if
In
there's a
that
problem,
order.
a man is not
No, no,
happy.
no, 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 no. It's
A man,
food, sleep, sex. And then there's a fourth one. If you're a good guy,
Uh,
if you love somebody, you'll just forego everything.
oh, men are good at that. Yeah. Go ahead.
oh, okay. But a man is not happy to discuss a problem without also trying to find a solution for it. And I think that the kind of the craziness that has been put on people as far as gender and role reversals is that too many people are sitting around just worried about the problem and not thinking about a solution. And being worried about something doesn't mean you have an interest in it or you're being proactive about it
Well, the
at all.
problem is with mental health, there often isn't a solution, at least not an easy one, because they don't know what the problem is that's causing it.
Well, would you agree that there's an uptick in this
Of people being mentally
with
unstable.
with
Yeah,
yeah.
big time. And there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the main reasons is a lot of people are more social than they realize, and they need some form of social validation that you don't get watching TV or sitting at home playing a video game by yourself. So those sorts of people need to make friends, really, real
Well,
friends.
I often wonder if it's not more than that. I wonder if it's not more related to poor quality in food, a
Oh,
lack of physical activity.
there's something that we're learning, that we're relearning, I should say, that we've always kind of known, at least people who live in the more rural areas, but that the academics and stuff have tried to dismiss for years. While I was growing up and years before that, they were telling you, you shouldn't eat too much fat, you shouldn't eat too much meat, you shouldn't eat too much of this thing, that thing, or another thing, as if they were bad. And for a while, they even said eggs were bad for you. All of that's nonsense. You want to be happy? Seriously, you have to be fulfilled. And one way to be fulfilled is to be nutrients, with food. Good food will fulfill you more than just about anything on this planet. If you're
Oh,
eating
yeah.
well, like I said earlier, my belly's full. How can I be sad? Because I got good food in me. I got some steak, got a little potatoes, got a little noodles. That's all a good time for me.
Bathtubs filled with suet.
Yeah,
My
and
point
also
is,
I think that mentally you've also have to have a purpose. I don't think
Yeah, I
that
think that's the big point right there. Yeah.
I don't think playing like video games all day long and getting into that stuff is a healthy purpose.
No.
well, it depends on what you do in your other time, right? If that's all you do all the time ever, Yeah, that's not going to be healthy for you at all. Unless, of course, you're doing it and making money, like say a streamer or something. But I think there's many different things people can have for a purpose. It just depends. I agree with you though. You have to find the thing. You have to find a purpose that's fulfilling. That's the problem with a lot of people today. They have all this stuff and none of it satisfies them. They're not fulfilled by it because they don't understand that that's the problem. They think the problem is, oh, I have this urge. I need to fulfill that. Or I need to fix that urge. No, I'm hungry. I need to eat. No, you need to find fulfillment. It's not easy. It's hard work usually, and some people are lucky, like Chester, and it's not a big deal. They're just, they're in a good mood. They're stable
Yeah,
mentally.
I'm
Like,
always happy. I don't know why. That is them.
not everybody's like that though, and I'd say probably most people aren't. And they have to find the thing that makes them happy. That's the meaning of life. That's it. There's a reason the founders in they changed it from life, liberty, and property to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair
Because you
point.
never fully attain happiness until you have it. That moment, it's sometimes it's fleeting, sometimes it's not. Some people it's religion. Some people it's really different for everybody. There's no one size fits all solution here. But I think purpose is a great thing to have. Whatever that purpose is, it could be something. Say you work a dead end job just to pay the bills, and your purpose is you want to protect animals. Okay, go do that. That's what you want your purpose to be
Sure.
in life, is to make the world a better place for animals. Okay, fine. No, I love that. That's a great idea. Maybe you want to work on things locally, politically, make your your local political environment better for everybody, for businesses, for the citizens, whatever. Okay, work on that. The problem is too many people are scattered. They're just doing the things they're told they're supposed to do. When it doesn't provide the fulfillment that they're looking for, they're lost. They're miserable. You have a whole generation of men, my generation especially, and into their 50s, who are completely and utterly lost because they don't have kids or they don't have anything that fulfills them like a child potentially
Yeah.
could have. Nothing will like a child will, but at least they could have something, right? Like a career or something really. Men can actually thrive in that environment. Some, if they're extreme experts at something. Women,
Sure.
I don't know about. Men definitely can. Um, but you need to find that thing, whatever it is. And like I said, it's different for every single person. No one can tell you what yours is unless they know you very well. Maybe they can. But most people, it's something you have to find on your own. And you have to find a way to be happy. You choose that every day. If you're depressed, choose to not be depressed. That doesn't mean your depression is just going to go away, but that means you're making it in your head a mindset of, I'm going to do things today that make me not feel depressed. I'm going to
Mm.
try.
That's
Just
the
try.
secret of life, dude. Be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to Evan. You guys know Evan Hotep, right?
Sure.
I was talking to him a couple of days ago about how many people I see that have no hobby, which is such an odd thing to me. My brother being one of them. He likes to watch football and go to the sports bar with his friends and bet on football and watch, but that's not a hobby. That's not something that stimulates you in any kind of a growth. And
Yeah.
and it's weird to me to not, for so many people to have no interest. Like I don't think video games are a hobby.
Well,
A lot of
interesting.
people would
That's interesting.
disagree, but I just don't think they are.
I know my wife's hobby is being a mother. I'm not even joking.
Sure.
Yeah.
And but it's something that is fulfilling, that is
To her, yeah,
rewarding
very
at
much
the
so.
end of the
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little bit of a anecdote, I guess. I don't know if this will be valuable at all, but I think this is something that helped me greatly in becoming who I am, maybe being part of why I am not a person that carries that holds on to emotion, right? I don't mean hold on to emotion, but hold on to sadness. When I was born, I almost died, and my mother almost died. It was a really bad situation, and it was basically because it was an old-fashioned doctor, and she didn't do what she should have done. But nevertheless, what it came down to is my left arm was ripped out of its socket, and there was a lot of damage done to my nerves and such because my mother's pelvis was too narrow, and they should have took me C-section, and they didn't. and it almost killed both of us. And now, of course, what that did to me is it gave me this thing. It's called Erb's palsy, and it took a long time. I say around 9 or 10 before the nerves. That you have 5 main nerve trunks in your arm. And it took about 10 years for those nerves to reconnect themselves, which they do. The healing of the body is quite amazing. But until that point, I had a gimp arm, right? I had a broken wing. And therefore, I was a pariah, right? Kids are cruel. We all know this, especially if you had them. And you are the butt of all jokes. You're the kid that gets the stuff thrown at them. You're the kid that gets kicked. You're the kid that gets spit on. You're that kid. Now, I lived through that. And it's rough. And a lot of those people, some of them don't survive. But me personally, I was kind of lucky because I got to the point where I just got pissed and I started pushing back hard, and that changed my course of my life into becoming, I'm a fairly confident person, I think you would say. But because of that, however, I learned, as many other people do, I learned the nature of people very young. Yeah. And because of that, that is probably some of the most valuable wisdom you could ever have, is understanding what people really can be. And because of that, I don't step into the world day to day ignorant. And therefore, you have a choice. You either accept that type of negativity that can exist. It doesn't exist every second of every day, but it can exist. You either accept it or you ignore it, right? And for me, I chose to be myself and not care what other people think. And there's an actual absolute freedom that comes with that. Now, the interesting thing is, if anyone has met me in the past 30 years, would never even assume that I had that problem because I am a very gregarious and overconfident person, I would say. And no, you would never ever guess that I went through that trouble. And I think, but I think I am so lucky to have had that trouble. I know it sounds weird, but I really think I'm lucky because it gave me a perspective and an understanding that allowed me to be free. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because when I was a young child, I had kidney failure. I got really, really sick, dehydrated, and went into kidney
Hmm.
failure and had to have a kidney removed, and almost died.
Wow.
So it's interesting you say that I've never had that anxiety over possibly dying.
Yeah.
I've got because I was so young. They opened me up, and I've got a zipper across my entire front side from side to front like a fish, and it's been a reminder my entire life, and so I've just never worried about things like that. So I wonder if those experiences do have an impact on
They
human
do.
growth.
They do. And the thing is, it either breaks you or it makes you stronger. Because that old thing, well, that which does not kill you makes you stronger, isn't always true. Some people, they break under it, and we lose them, right? But it can. So maybe I'm not saying I'm not making any one statement or another. I'm just trying to maybe say that you don't have to worry so much about what the world thinks. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
my
in
point.
general, I think you could just kind of say the world just doesn't really care too much about you. You're not that important.
That is fair too. That's fair as well. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that meant anything, but there it is. Uh, we are coming to the end of the show, though, and I do want to ask Slick a question because he's been quietly listening here. But I have because Slick belongs to a community, so I am kind of curious, Slick. How is your community dealing with all this ongoing problem? Mentally.
Hmm. Well, I don't see anybody freaking out all that much. I mean, we had some people come up on the Capitol steps and do let's bring the lockdown out, and show of guns, and that's fine. But I mean, most people around here aren't flipping out. Like they're just living their daily lives and doing the adjustments.
Hmm.
There's more of police presence, but I haven't seen them harassing anybody. They did put a blockade on the state mental hospital. So you have to do a check-in before you go up the road, for whatever reason that was for. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen them stopping people and going, "Why the hell are you out doing things?" There's less traffic by, I would say, an order of degree. It's easier to get around, especially at
Sure.
rush hour. But I think we haven't been to church in a while, but the network has been there.
Sure.
People, have been communicating. They shut down. They brought all the missionaries home from all over the world. They've been just sent home. They shut down the missionary training centers across the world in the same way. So the church and how it runs has basically followed the edicts of either the state or the local governments. That's one of our articles of faith, is that unless it conflicts with other parts of the faith, like you don't
Sure.
want to kill somebody. But that's the type of thing that's happening in this state. I mean, we have 23 deaths right now. That might be attributed to a lot of people are more healthy here for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm a fat boy, but I mean, there's a feeling of goodwill and perseverance and patience here. I don't see people, getting cabin fever and flipping out.
Well, I
That's
was
good.
out yesterday. I went to Walmart to go get some stuff for the shop, some plastic cups and paper towels and stuff like that. And the roads were packed, the stores were packed. I'm no one around here is doing this social distancing thing, and we're not seeing this huge spike in cases. So it's all very strange.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
places are different. I mean, it's obviously here we got about 3,000 cases in the state, but we're not like New York. But the difference between New York and California is market. I mean, I would think that California would be in the same predicament, but they don't have near as many deaths as like New York and New Jersey. Like something happened there that
Yeah, sure.
caused the proliferation.
In March, they were telling people, "Don't listen to Trump. Go out to go eat in Chinatown. Use the subways." I'm kind of wondering if De Blasio and Pelosi should not be sued for their actions, maybe even arrested, right? But another thing you got to keep in mind when it comes with New York and other places like it, understand that heart attacks, cancer, all these other kind of normal deaths that happen all the time are at zero. What they're doing is they're throwing any death on that list because it gets them more attention and more money. That's
Correct.
happening. Understand that. That is happening. So we have no clue what the actual death toll is in New York. We don't know.
Nor do we in China. I mean, this
No,
is
that's
really
true.
a bizarre thing to be experiencing.
It is weird. And a lot of doctors in Wuhan, for instance, even though China is not having any daily announcements of anybody infected or death or what have you, we have doctors that are, of course, now disappeared, that just in the past week or so came out and said very clearly the reason why there's no cases in China is because they're not allowed to report them. So there it
Yeah,
is.
and when you disappear in China, that probably means you are no longer breathing.
Probably, yeah. Or in some camp. But it's
So
interesting that China
if
and
you
New
love
York are the
communism,
opposite of each other, though, right? Because China is trying to keep it quiet. New York is over exaggerating it because they want more federal money, more this and that. And it's interesting because Cuomo, it's perfect because you just go listen to the man. They speak the truth if you listen, right? How he got up
mhm,
there and he says, "We need help." Trump's going out there and telling the governors to do it on their own. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't do it by ourselves. Really? Do you not realize you live in a republic? This is not a democracy. The governor, you're supposed to be in charge of your state. The federal government is supposed to be a backup. I mean, what the hell happened to the country, man?
too many
Uh,
Cuomo's got into office.
Yeah,
The
too
scale
much,
mewling
too much,
cow.
too much feminine power, and I don't mean women. I mean people who
Yeah,
have a
no,
feminine who put their
effeminates.
feelings above their rationality.
Ooh.
Not that has a place. that has a very important place in society, but it doesn't need to dominate, and it completely dominates in America.
Shouldn't be making policy, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, maybe we should just start calling Cuomo his effeminance.
It's actually not bad.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm bowing. I'm bowing. Anyway, we definitely come to the end of the show. Interesting conversation today. Next week, I think we will go back to something more weird. I think would be fun to go back to something more odd, and we'll talk about what we should. What should we do? I would like to do a more weird conspiracy theory next week. I think these three shows were good. Were good though, talking about what's going on and the conspiracies around that. But next week, what do you guys think?
What does the chat think?
Yeah, what does the chat think? What should we get on next week, guys? Something weird.
Oh no, you shouldn't have said that to him.
Yeah, I love that quote by Alan here. What doesn't kill you makes you significantly weaker. Norm Macdonald. Praise Norm
Yes.
Macdonald.
Yeah. Canada's national treasure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was needed, Joe. It was a good conversation. He misses aliens and Sasquatches. Okay.
Well, and to just kind of add to this thing that we were talking about, we did divert a little bit from I think what we are going to do, but this isn't over, everybody.
No, it's not. It's not.
And forever, how long that this continues, if it goes another month, another 2 months, it's going to be multitudes of time that it takes to recover from this. And I would suggest and highly advise everyone to be prepared for this to go all the way through the election and into the next seasonal cycle.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think December is going to be interesting, actually. But let's see what they got going here. They say Skinwalker Walker Ranch. That could be fun. Ancient Aliens is on season 15. True. How about Symbols on Money? Ooh. Trickster Gods will be home by Christmas. Trickster Gods. I don't know. What do you guys think about those? Skinwalker Ranch, Symbols on Money, or Trickster Gods?
I'm fine with anything. I'm a loudmouth. I can go and read and then come back with a very uninformed, terrible opinion on just about anything.
Well, what does they mean? What do they mean by trickster gods?
Oh, Loki.
Well, I know which gods are tricksters. I mean, like
Viracocha.
what's the TFT angle on that?
I don't think there is one. I think it's just it's not necessarily a TFT. Whereas the other two certainly are. Skinwalker Ranch is a very interesting conversation. Symbols on Money or just symbology in general. I think could definitely have fun. I wrote a paper on tricksters. Joe said, "Oh, cool." Ansari, Bugs Bunny, Prometheus, Coyote. Yeah, sure. The Secrets of Strip Clubs. No. Let's see here. Hey, Chester, have you ever looked up videos from Santos Bonacci? Well, I don't know. What is that? I have no
I'm not
clue.
familiar.
No clue at
I'm
all.
not sure.
Let me check it real quick. Santo Bonacci. All right. Sounds Italian. Mafia,
Guido
maybe?
Sarducci.
Let's see. Universal Truth's website. Arrested and in custody. Horoscope for birth date. All right. This looks like some kind of conspiracy dude. Maybe a self-help guru, maybe? I don't know. Give us a little insight into who this dude is. He
There we go.
He looks familiar, though, doesn't he?
Sorry, I'm still eating. We could do that. We could do self-help gurus.
Self-help gurus. Who I know so little. I'd have to do a lot of research, man. We could though. Symbols on Money is Illuminati territory. It is, but symbology in general, there's a lot we could talk about there, and that's something I could do off the top of my head. Paranormal potluck.
Bill Gates is hot news right now.
Let's do
Yeah.
symbology, numerology, any of that. Just all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's do. That's easy. He could be Lloyd Pie level. Oh wow. Okay, dude. I'm definitely going to send check out this Santos guy. But I think a safe bet for us right now is just symbology. How's that?
Yes, yes. I do like the suggestion of Richard Simmons, though. That's
Richard Simmons? Yeah, that's conspiracy theory. All right. And
uh,
goodness gracious. But one thing about Richard, I grew up, yeah, so did Model, probably Slick as well. We grew up with Richard Simmons, and Richard Simmons, he's a fruitcake, yeah, oh, sure, but he's so good natured and good hearted that you just kind of loved him. I mean, am I wrong?
No, he was definitely he is a pop culture icon of that time.
He
And
is.
if you ever want to really laugh, look for go on YouTube and look for the appearances of Richard Simmons on the Howard Stern show
Oh
and
my
how
God,
well he put up with just the brutality that those people put on him, and he was still such a good-natured guy.
he is a really
No,
sweet human. Yeah, Slick, you grew up with Richard Simmons as well. You have an opinion?
He had a good fro.
He did. He did. Not quite of Mr. Ross, but
Did he
Richard
die or something?
Simmons
What
was
happened to him?
Richard Simmons was a meme before there was meme. Sweating
oh
to the
sure,
oldies and stuff
sure,
like that.
sure. Yeah.
Why are we talking about him? Did he
Just
die?
someone made a joke in the chat, and it just made
Oh,
me
okay.
reminisce a little about Richard Simmons because I mean he don't get me wrong, he's an absolute fruitcake, but there's just something warm-hearted about Richard Simmons. You kind of have to, it's just you
Well,
have to love him.
he really did make the derision that came his way work for him.
He
So
did.
I mean,
He did.
you
Yeah.
know, um, we were talking about when he was on Letterman, and specifically where Dave just excoriated him on a general basis,
Right, he did.
and he
Yeah.
just kept going. He played the game with him. He flirted with Dave and played the thing and ran up and down in the audience. He really did his thing, and he for years and years and years, this guy made a lot of money
He did. Yeah.
just being this kind of character, and I think the character was pretty genuine to himself. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, Damnation says Simmons got a sex change, I think. I never heard that. I don't think so. I mean, Bruce Jenner did. But
Now, Richard Simmons did disappear to the public. He has disappeared.
well, sure, yeah, but he's a really old man. I mean,
Sure.
he's a really old dude. He was old then. I mean, but anyway, I don't want to get on a Simmons tangent. I just was like,
we got lost in the Simmons weeds here.
we got the loss in the Simmons weeds. But no, next week we're going to do symbology for damn sure. And that'll be fun. Well, there's so much territory with that. We can get into the Saturnist. We can get into the symbology on money. Wow, there's so much, dude. That's going to be a fun conversation. You could do a couple shows on that, I think. So you guys make sure you get ready for that. Prepare yourselves. I will do so as well. But let me have a closing statements, and then we'll get out of here and let you guys get to bed or get back to your day. I know my day is good. I got an earthquake to deal with. Sounds fun. So let's start with Slick Jimmy.
well, I hope everybody's staying safe out there and healthy, and not being stupid. And I think we'll come through this just fine. You can find me at Slick Jimmy Speaks on YouTube, and I do the cheesecake challenge every. Oh, geez, I set that up tonight. I forgot about it. The cheesecake challenge on my channel at 9:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can also find me at Slick Jimmy Love on the Twitters.
Mhm.
And if you want to look at my book, Little Girl Lethal, is currently in demand on Indiegogo. We are getting down to finishing up the lettering. It's a little bit of a tedious process, crossing all the dots and that sort of thing. So there you go. That's me.
All right, rock on. Thundero.
I don't know. I think I said a lot today, more than I wanted to. But yeah, I think Slick's right. I think we're near the end of this. Not near the end of it, but we're going to get through it. Rather, is a better way to put it. I do think you're going to start to see a lot of places start opening up again.
Yeah.
The Texas governor is signaling he wants to do it. like ASAP, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for everybody. We need, people need to get to work and live their lives. We can't just stay at home all the time. They're not like me; they can't just stay at home all the time. Um, but yeah, I think we're gonna get through it. I think for the most part we're gonna be fine. I do think you're gonna see some very interesting things happen over the next few months, especially on the topic that we're on, where violence might escalate to other things.
It could.
And I do think that we are in for a decade of change. Uh, like I said earlier, it'll be up to us to decide which way that goes.
Fair enough. Mr. Model.
Yeah, like the other guys said, we are going to get through this because we have no choice. But I do think there's a very high likelihood it's going to get worse, either for real or artificially. So,
All right. Well, there
but
you go.
I do think humans are going to induce even a worse problem.
We
than,
usually do.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, guys, I guess I'll take the namaste today. And simple thing is, these guys are right. This is definitely coming to an end. Support each other, support your families, get back to your job and your normal routine of life as best you can, as soon as you can. In general, be kind to each other and, be positive. And always remember, wipe your butt.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste.
Namaste.
And wash your balls.
That as well.
Please, please, wash them.
All right. Later, guys.